Hey, what's up, YouTube? It is the Dismal Collective here, and I'm back with another video for you all tonight. And this one is going to be about nudging and how you are being nudged, and you may not even know it. And hopefully, after this video, you will know whether or not you are being nudged. You almost certainly are. So let's get into this. What spurred me to make this video was a comment made by Julius in my chat. And he remarked that they're building some residential high rises in his city or near where he lives. And he's noticed that they're not going to be able to accommodate all of the vehicles of the residents. There's going to be an insufficient or a lack of parking. There's not going to be sufficient parking for all of these people. And from the gist that I gathered of what he was saying, I was kind of distracted when I recorded this. I was just getting off of the wage cage and I was driving. It was a little bit unpolished and unfocused, but it seemed to me the gist of what he was saying was that the city planners, the people who were supposed to think this out, were stupid or incompetent. And, I'm never too hasty to attribute incompetence to what could be better explained by malice, let's say. Now, whether or not you think it's genuine malice will come down to, I guess, whether or not you think these carbon initiatives, the climate initiatives, all of this, the green initiatives are justified by a real existential threat to the planet or not. But it's certainly not incompetence or stupidity. In my opinion, anyway. It's just my opinion. So shoutouts to Julius for inspiring this video. Hopefully he'll watch it. But I wanted to read a little bit of an article here quickly. And I know you guys got Dindu brains, so I'm not going to bore you too much with this. I'm factoring that in, taking that into deep consideration when I read anything in these videos. But I think it's quite informative and it's quite brief. So we're going to get into this article here. And this is the URB Act, URB Act, co-funded by the European Union. And the title is Nudging Sustainable Transport Choices, Applying Behavioral Science in Mobility. And this was last edited on the 3/26/2025, so January, February, March 26th of 2025. And let's just get right into this. So, for decades, transport decision makers have predominantly focused on technological advances and diversifying urban transport services to meet growing mobility needs. Blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to skip through some of this. So, what are nudges? Nudges are subtle changes in the way choices are presented that influence behavior without restricting options or significantly altering economic incentives. They work on the principles of guiding individuals towards a desired choice by leveraging psychological insights. While the private sector, such as the car industry, has effectively utilized behavioral nudges for years to promote certain behaviors, like buying a specific brand or model, public policy has been slower to adopt these methods. If public transport systems do not harness these insights, they may be at a disadvantage in encouraging more sustainable behaviors. Now, it's not mentioned in this article. I pulled this from another article, but I'm going to get into a little bit of the roots of nudge theory. We're going to get into the roots of it. So, nudge theory is a behavioral science concept popularized in a 2008 book by Nobel Prize winning economist Richard Thaler and legal scholar Cass Sunstein. So, I mean, some things just speak for themselves, but if you were wondering, yes to both of them every single time, without exception, without fail. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And they never learn. Anyway, so that answers that question. And these guys, as I understand it, I've never read this book and I'm not familiar with these thinkers, but they are Randians. They are followers of the Ayn Rand objectivist school of economics, basically moral faggy libertarianism. Anyways, carrying on. So, key principles of behavioral science in transport. To understand how to nudge people towards sustainable mobility, it is crucial to understand key behavioral science principles that affect decision-making processes. Traditional theories like rational choice theory assume individuals make decisions based on a rational evaluation of all available information. However, in practice, choices are often irrational and influenced by biases. This is where the concept of bounded rationality comes into play. Recognizing that people make decisions based on limited information and cognitive limitations, leading to suboptimal choices. Moreover, the dual process theory suggests that there are two systems of thinking. System 1, fast, automatic, and emotional. System 2, slow, deliberate, and rational. Most transport decisions are made by using System 1, influenced by emotion and habits rather than rational deliberation each and every time. Many passengers think they are motivated by a range of factors, but most decisions are actually driven by 5 key elements: status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. Status plays a role when people are choosing transport options that confer social prestige, such as driving a fancy car or taking a faster, more prestigious mode of transport. Certainty is about the reliability and predictability of transport, where passengers prefer modes they can trust. Autonomy is a significant factor, where people desire control over their journeys, such as the flexibility that comes with driving a private car. Relatedness involves a sense of connection or safety, such as traveling in environments that feel safe and friendly. Yeah, we certainly don't have that where I live. And fairness revolves around the expectation that the pricing of transport modes should reflect the value they provide. The influence of environment and context in transport choices. Beyond these motivational factors, environmental and contextual influences play a crucial role in shaping transport decisions. The default effect, for example, highlights that people are more likely to stick with preset options, which can be used to promote sustainable transport modes. Framing effect is another significant concept. It illustrates that the way information is presented can greatly affect decision making. For example, the perception of time in transport contexts can be manipulated. Walking may feel longer than cycling for the same duration, but it feels shorter than waiting at a stop. A calm ambience with warm lighting and relaxing music can also shrink perceived travel time. Interestingly, studies show that passengers perceive return trips to be about 22% faster, and the anticipation of arriving at a destination often creates a watched pot effect. So yeah, they're comparing it to like watching a kettle boil, and it seems like it takes forever. So these guys have really they've really thought this through quite deeply. They're talking about the perception of time, time alteration, manipulating factors that will make people perceive time to be much faster, time to be passing much more rapidly, which is preferable because humans don't like long trips. I'm sure they do little things, even on the subway. When I'll take the subway in Toronto, it's like everybody's falling asleep on there, like zombies. They're all nodding and their heads are bouncing around all over the place while they're falling asleep sitting up. And even I have a hard time keeping my eyes open. And I don't know if there's like some kind of an ambiance that um, is like affecting the passengers. I don't know if it's some type of a gas that they kind of like pump through the vent. I'm really not sure, but it's odd because number one, I'm not really one to fall asleep. I don't take naps in the day generally. I certainly don't fall asleep um, in public places. And I certainly don't sleep in like smelly, pissy places around fentanyl, fucking lunatics, and other people like this. But the fact that it's so easy for people to fall asleep with like schizophrenics 2 feet away from them shows like, I don't know. Maybe it's more than just you like the vibrations of the train on the tracks or something. Maybe they're doing something a little more insidious there. But anyways, carrying on. This is the real crux of this article. So this is where they kind of give like a taxonomy of nudges. They're going to categorize all of these into different species here. Spectrum of nudges and real world examples. Behavioral nudges can be categorized across the spectrum that ranges from passive to active, generalized to personalized. There's the gang stalking. And from time-based to event-based. The spectrum reflects the varying degrees of subtlety and specificity with which nudges can be applied to influence commuter behavior toward more sustainable choices. By understanding and employing different types of nudges, cities can strategically design interventions that address specific challenges in urban mobility. But they'll never address the demographic of the people who use public transportation. Like that alone would basically solve their issue, but they can't go there. If I just saw people like myself when I rode the bus and the train, there would be no aversion to public transportation, to be quite frank. I don't like driving. It's fucking annoying. I like to have my hands free. I like to be able to get up and walk around, stretch out. But it's a demographic problem, you know what I mean? People literally get like stabbed in the fucking throat on the bus at random where I'm from. So, moving on. Number one, passive nudges. Passive nudges are subtle interventions that gently steer individuals toward a desired behavior without requiring conscious decision making. These nudges are often embedded in the environment or default settings. For example, default ethics are a powerful type of passive nudge. When the most sustainable option, such as opting into a public transport subscription, is set as the default, most people will stick with it. An example of this is in Copenhagen, where default bike lanes are integrated with public transit systems to encourage cycling and use of public transport over driving. Again, it's not what, but who. Like, who are you sharing these roadways with? That's my concern. What is the IQ? What is the reaction time and the processing speed of these people, if we're even so generous to call them people? The average urban dweller in a Canadian metropolitan, like, psh. Number two, active nudges. Active nudges require more engagement and conscious decision making from individuals. They are designed to capture attention and encourage specific actions. One well known example is the piano stairs in Stockholm, where a staircase was transformed into a giant piano keyboard that played notes as people walked up and down. This nudge encouraged people to take the stairs instead of the escalator, promoting physical activity. Similarly, 3D zebra crossings that create an optical illusion of being raised from the road have been implemented in places like Iceland and India to slow down traffic and enhance pedestrian safety. Zebra crossings. Number 3, generalized nudges. Generalized nudges are broad-based interventions aimed at influencing the behavior of large groups, without tailoring to individual characteristics. For instance, in Copenhagen, the concept of green waves for bicycles is a generalized nudge. Traffic lights are synchronized so that cyclists maintaining a consistent speed of around 20 kilometers per hour can hit a series of green lights without stopping. This not only encourages more cycling, but also promotes a steady pace, reducing the likelihood of accidents and making cycling a more attractive mode of transport. See, and then they do the inverse with cars, right? They make it so you hit every single red. And then they have all this plausible deniability. They can gaslight you. Like the passengers in your car, if they're normies, if they're normal fags, they will gaslight you and say, oh, this is just how lights are. Sometimes you hit a streak, sometimes you don't. It's like, no, I've been driving for over 15 years and I don't have the memory of a goldfish. This is not how lights were always timed. But anyways, here's my favorite one, personalized nudges. Personalized nudges target specific groups or individuals by tailoring messages or interventions to their preferences or behaviors. For example, personalized travel planning apps that provide real-time data on the best routes. Consider both environmental impact and user preferences. Can nudge users toward more sustainable travel choices. In London, Transport for London, or TfL, TfL, just noticing some patterns here. Shoutouts to Steve Hoka, has experimented with sending personalized travel advice to commuters based on their past travel patterns, nudging them to consider alternative routes or modes of transport during peak times to alleviate congestion. And yeah, I've gotten those random push notifications from my GPS app before many a time, and I never really understood why I was getting them until this actually helped kind of make sense of it. So I'm going to just run through this. I know it's kind of getting a little bit drab. Time-based nudges. Time-based nudges are interventions that occur at specific moments when people are more open to change, such as the start of a new year or during a move to a new city, for instance, launching a public campaign to promote cycling, etc. Event-based nudges are designed around specific occurrences, such as local festivals, blah, blah, blah. See, here's the problem with this, too, is they're not going to disclose some of the more insidious ones, some of the more cruel-natured ones. And they're not going to say that it's designed to make you go fucking mental. It's designed to give you a cortisol spike, to make you fucking act like a caged animal when you're sitting there in traffic, when there's just like random construction shutdowns. Somebody else in my chat, Sebastian, he was saying today, shout outs to him too, that basically I don't want to get it wrong. Sometimes I'm not an attentive reader, but he said something to the effect that his like would-be half-hour commute is like twice as long because one of the lanes has been shut down for the last few weeks and there's nobody even working on it. They just like park construction equipment there. They'll park like a steamroller there and a couple stacks of fucking whatever, and they just leave it there and shut a lane down so that it just creates a bottleneck and you sit there and go mental. So anyways, yeah, now I'm going to leave you with, I'm going to stitch on my video from earlier today. I'll leave you all with that. And drive safe out there, folks. Dismal days indeed. They, even in our major newspapers and whatnot in Canada, they call it nudging. And what nudging is, essentially, nudging is the process whereby they seek to generate a demand for government programs, which were already planned anyway. But then it makes it seem organic, like the public asked for this and now the government is going to respond and save the day or whatever, right? So, this is what it is. I'm going to give you the whole shot. People will say I sound schizo, but there's no way this could not sound schizo. Any kind of, like a pre-hoc explanation will always sort of come across as schizo. And then once it's occurred, people will view it differently and they'll see, you know what I mean? It's just, anyway. What they do is they bring in all of these apartments, big apartment high-rises, etc. That, number one, they don't have enough parking to accommodate all the residents of the apartment. Like, the parking garage isn't big enough, and there just simply isn't enough parking on the street in the surrounding area. Number two, they completely beef up the amount of parking infraction enforcers in the area. Like, they'll literally increase the number of people giving out parking tickets like tenfold, so that you cannot get away with, like back in the day, 15 years ago, you used to kind of be able to get away with just parking illegally, and you took your chances. If you got unlucky, you ate a ticket. Now it's assured. You will, even just stepping into the store, some didn't do nothing is going to come by and slap a big old nasty $60 ticket on your fucking windshield. Point blank period. She's going to get every single car on the whole street. And they bring in all of these people and they give them licenses like they're going out of style. Everybody with a pulse can pass a driver's test in Canada, and they get, licensed to go drive on the streets, drive on the highways, whatever. Urban sprawl ensues. Everybody's trying to move out to these surrounding areas because they can't afford to live within the city limits of where they work. And so people are driving and they get stuck in traffic, and the traffic is always partially inhibited by these very conspicuously timed construction projects. They're just fixing a weird pipe, or they're doing this and doing that, and they funnel all this down. And they also make the timing of the lights unproductive, like the timing of the intervals of the green lights. They make roundabouts instead of making new four-way intersections with lights, which are also annoying and impede the flow of traffic. And all of this is, they call it needling, they call it nudging. They say this expressly. This isn't a conspiracy theory. I can pull out my local paper. They say it actually increases traffic when you widen lanes and add in new roadways, it increases traffic because more people will see how much open space there is on the road, and this will tempt them more to use their vehicles. Whereas when the roads are constantly congested, you start to build like a very negative psychological association with driving, and you start looking for alternative means. And I'll tell you from my own experience, it has worked. When I go into the city now, I take the train, I take the bus, and then at least, you know, the thing never stops moving. I can read a book, or I can take pictures of subhumans, whatever. Like, it's a lot better than just sitting in traffic, wearing down my own vehicle, running down my own gas, sitting there fucking all cramped up where you can't stand up and stretch out. And so this is like the first phase you're in, where they want to annoy people. They want to antagonize private vehicle owners so that they just don't want to be driving anymore, period. Simple as that.